Okay, tech worked. I love that. Hello, Eric. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Julie.
Hey, Julie.
How are you guys?
Doing great.
I'm delighted that I'm here on time for a change at Warwick's, breaking all historical precedent.
I know. Next time you're at the store, we're gonna like be going, hey, you're
Yeah,
you're setting precedent here now.
I know. Yeah. I'm setting all the wrong traditions.
Love it. I love it. Well, like we were talking about in the green room, last time you were at the store was either I can't remember if it was Born to Run or Running with Sherman, but it was a wonderful event, and part of us are very heartsick that you're not here in person, but we're so glad that both of you are here with us virtually. So thank you both for being here. Appreciate it very much. So while Facebook's letting people know that we're here and that we're live, if you are watching this later on YouTube, we're not live with you, but it's going to be a great conversation. So stay with us on the YouTube channel too, because it's going to be great hearing these two talk about Born to Run too. If you are with us live on Facebook right now, in the comment section, I'm going to be putting a link on how to order the book. So click on that for us. And also in that section is where you're going to ask questions. So that's our favorite part. I'm sure it's your guys' favorite part too. So don't be shy, ask lots of questions. We'll be feeding those in to both these gentlemen. So ask away in that comment section. But I think we've probably given them enough time to let everybody know that we're here and that we're live. So I'm going to do my due diligence, my job, even though everybody knows who you two are. Got to do the intro. So
I love it. Just rain it down.
Here we go. So Christopher McDougall covered wars in Rwanda and Angola as a foreign correspondent for the Associated Press before writing his best-selling book, Born to Run. His fascination with the limits of human potential led to his next works, Running with Sherman and Natural Born Heroes, and his Outside Magazine web series, Art of the Hero. Chris, where are you calling in today with us? Where are you calling
I'm calling in from Hawaii. We moved to Hawaii 2 years ago.
Oh, well, you didn't have to make me jealous with that comment, but that's okay.
San Diego, you guys are fine.
I know, we don't have much to complain about, that's for sure. So Eric Orton's experience with I'm going to mess this up. Tarahumara is
Tarahumara.
Tarahumara. Okay. And a study of running.
Chris said is better than I do.
And his study of running human performance, strength, and conditioning have led him to the cutting edge of the sport and made him a go-to for athletes everywhere. The author of The Cool Impossible and former fitness director of the University of Colorado Health Science Center, Eric personally trains athletes from recreational racers to elite ultramarathoners. And are you calling in from Jackson Hole?
I'm calling in from Jackson Hole. We've got 2 feet of snow, so I've got you guys beat.
You got us beat by a mile, I'm telling you. So you two are going to chat about Born to Run 2. I'll see you in a little bit with some questions. There it is. All right, you two, have a good conversation.
Thank you.
You know what's interesting about this, Eric? I haven't actually seen the book yet. This is a UK copy. I haven't seen the US copy. Yeah, dude.
I got mine last week, end of last week.
End of last week. Wow. Okay. We see how they play favorites, man. We see what the pecking order is in this operation. Rip through it,
kind of drops. Jackson Hole actually happens before Hawaii.
Oh, in terms of like
that drop ship, it just drops down.
A little parachute opens up.
Parachute, yep.
Hey man, I just flip through a second. Like, how do the pictures look in the US version?
It's amazing. I mean,
yeah,
just what we wanted. And
dude, don't flip through for yourself.
I'm not a teacher.
Look at that. Oh yeah.
Arnolfo Caballo.
Yeah. Did you see what Men's Health did today with that picture? That one of Marcus and Batman?
No, I missed it.
So there's a Men's Health excerpt today that uses that picture of Marcus and Batman as a cover shot, but they've turned it into like a superhero. Boy, if I had any Zoom knowledge right now, I'd put it on, but I can't figure that out. But they turned it like a comic book. So Marcus is kind of in the background in black and white, and Batman is leaping toward the camera in color. It is, I mean, I already thought this picture was the best dog running picture ever. It's now on the next level.
Wow, I'll have to check it out when we're done.
So anyway, let's
bring it back.
let's get down to the business at hand, which is how this whole operation took place and why there's a Born to Run 2. And, people have asked me if it's a sequel. And I'm like, it's actually kind of an in-between quill, because it's all the stuff that really would have gone into Born to Run if I'd known it back then. You knew, well, would you say that you knew a lot of this stuff when we spoke in 2004, 2005, or is a good bit of it newish to you?
What I like about coaching is that there's always something to learn, but I've always, to answer your question, back then I had this umbrella philosophy of what my belief of this whole training thing with running. And so I always stuck with that belief in that template, but that always morphs and continues to morph. If we have another conversation in 10 years, things are going to change, but it's all based on, what we just talk about in the book of how important cadence is, how important leg stiffness is. And there's just, I like to find new ways to teach it. And I think, you and I've talked about and have had questions about why 13 years? Well, it allowed me to really, I think, hone in on how to coach and teach in this type of environment that resonates with everybody. And, you and I talked about that feeling of, what it's like to feel things rather than just be taught something.
Yeah. So maybe it took a couple different filters. One is I'm very resistant to a lot of things. I'm resistant to new ideas and new concepts. I tend to be skeptical, and it takes a long time before it really sort of filters through that very thick granny head of mine into the point where it penetrates and I believe it. So yeah, absolutely. You've been talking from the beginning that running is not just this thing you do for 45 minutes and then you go back to your life. That if you're doing it properly, it's really integrated into your life. And I got an inkling of that back in the Born to Run early days, because when I was writing about the Tarahumara diet and the whole idea that if you live in a culture where you have to rely on your body for everything, for communication, for transportation, for survival, for escape, you can't like load up on a giant like cinnamon bun and a bagel for breakfast, because your blood sugar will spike, you'll drowse out, you'll feel bloated. How many times have we skipped a workout either because we were hungry or we were full? That our eating wasn't dialed in and it blew out the workout. But you can't survive that way. So you'd already opened my eyes to the fact, okay, your eating has got to be dialed in, and your footwear's got to be dialed in. So yeah, I get it. You had this whole umbrella philosophy. I think each one of those spokes of the umbrella took a long time for me to get it. And so I'm kind of glad I waited until I got the whole picture before we tackled this book together.
Well, and having said that too, again, it's been 14 years since we actually first met, so I'd much rather have the stuff in the book that's in there now than back then, so again, understanding the importance of the feet and leg stiffness and all that goes into that, I've refined that through 14 years where, it's much better now, and as it should be, as a coach.
Yeah, right. So you've had the opportunity to actually test this on a lot of people in a lot of backgrounds and a lot of races. And I think for me, that was a big element as well. I always felt lucky that I wrote Born to Run at the time when I did, because it was a moment when I wasn't sure about any of this stuff. The only barefoot runner I knew was Barefoot Ted, and I was not putting my hand on a Bible for that guy. I'd seen a lot in action, but I was very new to this, and it's like, okay, so far so good. But so I wrote Born to Run from the perspective of somebody who's like, look, I've seen this stuff, seems to check out. That's all I can say. And I think that was a very healthy perspective to have, because I didn't come across like a fire-breathing dragon. Like, I got all the answers, listen to me. I came across the guy who's like, I don't know, this stuff might work. It seems to be pretty good. It seems legit. And I think that helped people ease their way into the story, because I wasn't trying to ram anything down their throats. And then over the years, I needed to see for myself, on myself, that the things you were telling me actually worked. And that was like the dawning revelation, was this day of realizing, like, oh my God, yeah, it's been 15 years and I'm still running, you know? And I had that flashback to the moment in that park in Denver where you're trying to convince me the injuries, the stiffness, the frustration, you don't need to have any of it. And to me, that was what running is. Running is, well, you know, you have to have the shoes. You should expect to get sore. You should expect to get injured. That's all part of it. And you're like, no, none of that. And I'm like, all right, we'll see. And I thought if I got a couple of years out of this, 3, 4, 5 years, a couple of good races before breaking down, good enough, you know? And now 15 years later, like I said, I went out the door with this conversation. I just ran 2 miles. Okay, granted it was on the beach, but barefoot, swam a quarter mile, and then ran a mile and a half on asphalt on a road, and then another mile in again on sand. Didn't even give it a second thought. And that's what you've equipped me with, man. You've equipped me with all-terrain tires.
I think that's the take home, is that here you're 15 years older and you're better. You're better than you were
Yeah.
back then. And that's that art. And that's what you talk about, of something that you think about every day because you want it to reward you. So you're taking care of that every day so you can go faster, further, forever, whenever you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
And I think that's the take home of Born to Run too, is that no matter how long you've been doing this, short or fast, long or slow, old or young, there's always a way to improve. And I think every step can be a form that just catapults that through time. And that's the art and the craft of it. And that's what I hope people start to grasp, that we don't have to feel the way that we've been maybe brainwashed or taught, that the more you run, the tighter you get. No, it should just be the opposite. And what a revelation.
And you know, that in particular is a concept. It's probably took me 10 years to get what you meant. Because to me, every step, in theory, is one step closer to a breakdown. You know, that's the mentality. You know, that when you run, you don't have the right shoes, you know, you're going to get this and this and this. And eventually your knees will go, or your hamstrings, or your quads. Every step is an exercise in impact and stress and destruction. But what you demonstrated is, no, every step can be you refining your craft. Just like every note that a guitarist plays is not like, okay, well, I'm shortening my career. Yeah, it's one note closer to the end. No, it's one note where I'm learning how to play it smoother, softer, more beautifully. Like a martial artist, someone who's doing martial, you see, like, you know, Ip Man, the guy who creates Wing Chun, and he's always like got the long wispy beard. He's 104 years old and he's still like smashing boards. But the idea is that when you bring elegance to the movement, the impact is gone, the destruction is gone, and all that's left is smoothness and flow.
And that's, I think, part of the hard part when we talking about shoes or run form or even strength training. You know, what's the best way to do it? What's the right shoe? Is heel striking right? Is forefoot striking right? But no one talks about how it makes you feel, because you can't study that. You can't create measurement in science of how someone feels other than an anecdotal answer. But that's what I hope people get from this book, is that they start to implement this and they can start to realize what you saw of how good we can feel in doing this.
Yeah, I felt like that is when the light bulb clicked on and we got what this book should be. The moment we started talking about, actually everything that we think is important is something that can be measured by feel, and not this kind of like, you know, namby-pamby, you know, listen to your body kind of way, but no, like direct cause and effect. That if you do something right, you'll feel it and you'll know it. Same way, like, you know, if you play a ball sport, okay, whenever you do something with that ball sport, if you swing a bat, take a shot, swing a golf club, swing a tennis racket, before you even make impact, you know it's right. Like, you know that all the movements are flowing together. And that is something that can be translated into running, but every aspect of running. So you can tell as soon as you eat something, whether that was a good idea or a bad idea. You know, not by consulting a calorie list or eat this, don't eat that kind of thing. You'll feel the effect on your body, and you can interpret it. You could feel by your breathing rate whether you got the right pace or not. whether you have the right cadence. You can feel by your feet whether you got in the right shoes. And when we realized that we could translate your entire umbrella into 7 aspects of running that can all be interpreted by feel, then I realized we got something good.
Yeah, and I, from a coaching standpoint, in a fun way that people can do while they're out running. I mean, not so much the food thing, but most of this part of the program is what you're doing while you're out running. So it doesn't have to add to your day. It doesn't have to add a ton of time going to the gym and choosing between doing this or going for a run. You can do it all in your run. And that's, I think, is so exciting.
It's funny. I was thinking how I was going to refute you about the food thing. And what came to mind was Billy Barnett, and then as soon as I thought of that, I'm thinking of the Polynesian, right? So we can just have a whole conversation of private jokes here where I go, hey, remember that? You're like, so let's dial that back. You said maybe not the food thing. I would disagree. I feel that when you get your eating dialed in, and not from a Spartan, I can only live on 1 basil leaf a day kind of thing, but you have a big ample breakfast. You can have like a 3-egg omelet with sour cream and hot sauce on it, but once that eating is dialed in, even that 3-egg omelet, you feel it. You feel joyful because then you feel uplifted and energetic. So for me, like that's the benefit of it. It's the same thing when Steph Curry releases that 3, he must feel a little charge of like endorphin, like, ooh, yeah. It's to me, it's the same way. You eat the right food, you feel it. I feel energized as opposed to sluggish. I feel like I'm ready to do something as opposed to like, I got a bear nap for an hour. But I got to put in this thing about Billy just so explain what that's all about. So Billy Barnett, Billy Bonehead, the guy who's on the cover of Born to Run, is still a good friend of ours and is still a super high performing, very knowledgeable ultra endurance athlete. And we called him up because he contributed some superb recipes, he and his wife, Alex, to this book. But in the course of our conversation, he's fully on board with the whole field concept. Like your body should be a super sensitive detecting device. And he's like, yeah, it's like those Polynesian paddlers. They can tell the change of the current in their testicles. And we're like, what, they just like dangle them in the water? Like, no, like in the canoe. Like, okay, you're so passionate about it.
Well, and this isn't as exciting as testicles, but I've honed my Pignoli pre-run meal to where now I know I'm going to have a good run just because I've ate that. And if I don't eat that or I eat something else, I can really have this parameter of how good my run's going to be before I even go out. So it's I'm still kind of learning that feeling, and that's what's so fun to experiment with a ton of Pignoli and a ton of recipes.
On the flip side of that, I feel like we should do an entire book. Follow Eric, not Chris, because and do like matching pages, like what you did in the morning and what I did, what your workout was and what mine was. But like today, Born to Run 2 comes out today. So to celebrate, my wife drove into Honolulu, went to a specialty store, and came home with a massive cheesesteak, which for me, I was not breastfed. I was fed a patch steak at 2 months old. I've been living on them ever since. So she brings me this cheesesteak, and I'm like, okay, well, I could wait, or I could just shove that thing right down my throat right now before I go for this run. So I went the entire run fighting heartburn and a wad of like cheap beef in my belly. So are
you able to be from Philly and have a cheesesteak from Hawaii?
You know what? Listen, man, I'll tell you. They say Philly fans are tough, but we're fair. So I will hit you in the head with a D battery even if you're Santa Claus, if I think you're not showing proper respect. But I got to say, this Ala Moana Mall cheesesteak, really good. And they did one like OG style. They actually had one with cheese whiz, and grilled onions. And I got to tell you, it was legit.
It was worth it. See, but it's doing its job. It's giving you that heartburn feedback, right? Yeah. Maybe not every time before your swim run.
Yeah, right. Well, again, that's the thing about that too. I turn off my messages because bling. That was my mom checking in. That's the thing about it, though, is that I love the fact that the eating is dialed in. I know the consequences. In the past, I didn't. So, it's the middle of the afternoon. I feel drowsy. Well, what is it? Was I up late last night? Am I stressed? Is it my food? I don't know what it is. But now I know very, very easily. If I feel sluggish, I know exactly what it is. I can trace it back to its cause. And I know beforehand, hey, if I eat this half a bagel, I'll be fine. If I eat the whole bagel, I'm going to be knocked out for a couple hours. So I know the consequences and what to do about it.
So how does that translate to how you deal with your run form? I know how particular you are about your shoes and your run form. How that same example, when you go out for a run, what's going through your head what are you feeling when you feel that good swish like Steph?
Well, I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember? I'm sure you do. You remember everything. We were in Asheville, North Carolina, and we went for a run with, his name's slipping my mind.
I can see the gate we had to go around, but I don't know the name.
Yeah, so we went for this run, and I was telling you, man, my groin has been bugging me lately, And then even
was it with
Harlan?
Harlan?
Will Harlan.
Yeah,
exactly. And then the Boston Marathon, same thing. My groin seized up on me, like right around mile 20, felt like a massive, like having a coronary, but in my groin. And I thought, and they're like giving me like bouillon cubes. You're dehydrated, or you don't have enough salt. You need more salt. And you said afterwards, they always say that. They always say more salt, and they show salt at you. If they don't know what else to say, they say eat more salt. And you said it's something else. It's in your form. And I took that to heart, and I started to really think about it. And I realized, yeah, I'm dragging that leg, and my leg. I'm a big dude, so my leg probably weighs 70 pounds, 60 pounds, something like that, 50 pounds. I would say each leg weighs about 50 friggin' pounds. So if I'm dragging that leg, that is 50 pounds of dead weight that I'm pulling behind me. And where's the torque going? It's going right to the groin. Yeah. So if I'm not snapping that knee forward, instead I'm dragging it with my hip and my groin. And no wonder the groin's going out. So it's little things like that where I get faced with near catastrophe, or pain in a run. And you've always told me over and over again, this is correctable. This is not about your shoes. It ain't about the bouillon cube. It's not about even the training. It's the fact that you're not moving your leg right and your muscles are protesting. And I feel like from that day forward, I've been super tuned in. But the benefit is I like it. Like I enjoy it. When I'm on a run, I think what people look for when they pump music into their heads is what I get from thinking about run form. That I'm constantly running up and down the diagnostic chart. Hey, how's my back? Am I getting my hips out? Or where are my arms? Am I driving with that knee? And if something feels a little bit off, if something feels a little bit squishy or wrong, then I have to focus on trying to dial it in. And so what it feels like for me, I think on a good day is probably the analogy I use the most, is I feel like a boxer who's jumping rope. I feel like my back is straight. I'm popping, my legs are stiff. I'm just pop, 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 pop. And I'll go into these spells of like 30 strides where I feel like that was nothing. Like, I didn't even use anything. And then of course, then you'll wobble a little bit and you'll be forcing yourself muscularly. But when I'm in it, I feel like there's no effort at all.
Yeah. I remember when we actually stopped on that run and did some running over the logs, I think, to get you to lift that leg.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Well.
So talk to me about your shoe journey. Where are you at with shoes now? So everybody likes to hear about shoes. So
the shoe journey, here's where I come down the shoe journey. It took me a while to actually get to this point. And this happened in a conversation you and I were having recently with someone. And I was in the middle of having my brains melt out of my ear holes once again about are you sure you don't need, are you sure your feet, like, well, the studies, like, feet have nothing to apologize for. Feet are fine. It's when you add new technology to a situation, it's the technology that has to prove that's making things better. And so we're in the middle of this conversation when all of a sudden it dawned on me, like, hey, listen, you dude, Mr. Purist, Mr. like, I only need my bare feet. I got 15 pairs of shoes right outside of frame right now. And I enjoy putting them on, and I enjoy picking a particular pair of shoes, not even necessarily because it's the best shoe for that run. I just feel like wearing them, you know? Like I got a pair that those Forzas, the Zero Shoes Forzas we just got. Like the pair they sent me are white, you know? I'm like, I've never had a whiter pair of shoes in my life. Like these things are freaking cool. And so I went on a trail run in those things only because I felt like wearing the white shoes. They sent me a pair of Zalins. Same thing. Like, hey, this is a road shoe. And I took it running through a creek. Like, I wonder how this thing does on rocks. So what I finally realized is that yes, our feet are super sensitive, super responsive, and for that reason, they really like a nice, varied, sensual meal. And so wearing shoes is a sensual pleasure. And to tell people, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you're really denying them the pleasure of a really good meal. You know, you're denying them the Philly cheesesteak that they crave. And so I now I get it. People don't want to be told, don't wear this, don't wear that. And I think the real message should be, you know something, man, give in to the Haagen-Dazs for your feet, just as long as they don't get in the way of what you're really trying to accomplish. And so for me, yeah, I really like experimenting with different minimalist shoes, but the less between me and the ground, the better. The more in control I feel.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. All
How
right.
about you? How about you, man? So I know you're a Tetons, Rocky, tough trail guy. What are you rocking these days?
Well, I've challenged myself to use the better part of this last half a year to run exclusively in Zero shoes, which are, if people aren't familiar with Zero shoes, they're really very minimal, only with an outsole, zero drop. And that's my goal, is to be able to run in the Rocky Mountains of the Tetons in my Zero shoes, because I like to be close to the ground, and sometimes I have to sacrifice comfort to stay stable and to be that natural environment that I prefer. And I've always had to get away from that just to get more protection if I'm out all day. But I'm using that now. That's my challenge, is to be able to run exclusively in a very, very natural shoe. So, and it's fun.
So let's clarify to people what Born to Run 2 is all about, because it's not a book about shoes.
Yep.
Yeah, Born to Run 2 comes from the fact that for a long time, you and I have both gotten tons and tons and tons of messages from people asking for training advice or footwear advice or diet advice, racing advice. And I always just waved them off and said, dude, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm not that guy. You know, I'm the crappy guy at the back of the pack who's still trying to figure this stuff out. I'm not the guy to give you any advice. But then it finally dawned on me, yeah, but I actually know that guy. I could get him on my phone in a minute. And it dawned on me that, yeah, you know, why not do the book that I wish I had back when I started this whole thing? Like, what if someone had given me Born to Run 2 back in 2004? It would have changed everything for me, because it would have made this whole system that you're talking about comprehensible and in one thing. I think every other training book out there to me is so specialized. You know, it's how to train for a marathon, or it's, you know, the same like charts, and, you know, keep a journal, and, you know, the kind of useless advice that doesn't go anywhere. What I wanted was, hey man, how do I run with my dog? You know, hey, we got a baby in the house. How should I train and have a jogger, you know, a baby jogger? You know, what's the story with carbo loading? Should I be carbo loading or not? And I thought, let's write the book that can answer every question, and also put it in terms of real people. You know, I'm sick to death every time I open a copy of Runner's World and I see someone with a blonde ponytail on the cover. You know, and listen, you blonde ponytail people, I know I'm offending you, but you know what? You've had it good long enough. But for the rest of us who are just normal looking, that's what I wanted represented in this book. And I wanted this to be a book where everybody who opens it up, at some point, you're going to stop and go, whoa, that guy looks just like me. Or, hey, that girl looks like my sister. You know, I wanted everybody to look like the people that we know. And so here, a big shout out. Can't believe we've gone this far without talking about our friend Iman.
Let's see it.
Yeah. If there's any picture you want of Iman, there's one there,
Right.
on the back. So Iman Wilkerson, you San Diegans, is a local treasure. She's phenomenal. She has a operation called the Rundown, and the Rundown keeps track of local running clubs across the West Coast, and not just running clubs, but running environments. And so a lot of people, particularly during the pandemic, were relying on the Rundown, because if someone wanted to go out for a run on a particular route, they wanted to know, hey, is there a bathroom there? Are there street lights? Is there a place I can park my car? Are there other people who run in that same area that I can connect with? She's the one that's instrumental for our other local beloved San Diego institution, the Santa Mujeres Runners, which is a female forward Latina running group that was formed by two women, Virginia and Priscilla, who were both beginning their running journeys on their own. And they realized, wait, why are we by ourselves? There's got to be a bunch of other women. And so they meet in Balboa Park Thursday nights. And they formed because of the Rundown, and the Rundown now carries information about the Santa Mujeres. So, we reach out to Iman because we want to make sure people of color are represented as much in this book as anyone else. People, adaptive athletes who are running with prosthetics, people of different ages, different body types. And that's the book we wanted to create. We wanted this to be the every person book, whether you're gender fluid, an older person, younger, beginner runner, aging runner, something here for everybody.
Everybody and everybody.
Yeah. Hey,
that's
Julie.
a good segue. I'm back.
All right.
I love the fact that it is a book for the spectrum of everything, from the beginning runner to the ultra athlete. Can find something in the book, right?
Absolutely.
And the thing about it, this was the one point that really vexed us too, because we didn't want there to be separate sections like, this chapter for beginners. So what we wanted to find was, where's the nexus? Where's the meeting spot for all these runners? And what Eric, I think, ultimately came up with is that no matter where you are in your running journey, there's this moment you need to get back to that factory preset. That you need to refine your form. You need to pay attention to what you're eating. You need to really assess your body for fitness quirks that could cause a problem. And that's what we realized, is that there is a reboot that every runner should go through. And on the other end of it, whether you're a beginner or experienced, you will come out stronger and much more knowledgeable about what you want to do.
So is the book set up, Eric, in is it sectional? Or is it a story that you've gone through? What exactly, how is it set up?
Yeah, I mean, each chapter is going to have Chris's great stories that ultimately culminate at the end of the chapter with some type of training modality or component. But ultimately, the book is set up in what we call the free 7. And so there's 7 components to make up a sound run, a runner who can run free, what we call running free. And those 7 are, let's see if I can get it in order: food, fitness, form,
wow, you're terrible.
Focus,
terrible.
footwear,
What the heck?
fun, family. I just had to keep going.
There was a 17-second pause between 1 and 2.
It's because we always had that moment of, do we put form before strength or strength before form? And that always messes with me.
Oh, I think I laughed in the middle of it. Could you do it again quicker this time? Do you
Yeah.
think?
Food, form, fitness, footwear, family.
See, you got
fun, focus.
Fitness is first.
Yeah, I completely messed the order. But Julie, this is the kind of conversations we're having. We're like, well, family and fun. Is it fun and family? Is it family and fun? Is it form and fitness? Like that. Like, how do you actually stack it? Because we were really particular that we thought there had to be a hierarchy. We always knew number 1 was food. Right. Since most people, their running is dictated by their relationship to food. Most of us start running because, hey, I want to lose a few pounds or whatever. We needed to dial that in first. And then the rest was a free game.
Well, and I think one of the things you talked about earlier in the conversation, which, like you said, food, I think in the last 5-10 years has become the important. We're back in 15-20 years ago, that wasn't the focus. Blood sugar and how that affects you and all of that really over maybe the last 8 or 10 years has been where that's really dialing in and focusing on that more.
Yeah.
And
I completely agree. I think people looked at running as the antidote for all food ills. And then we've now realized it's not helping. You're on a hamster wheel and you're never getting any closer.
Right. And I think another thing you brought up early in the conversation, which was one of those things that was like, I was sitting in the background listening, because you hear the fallacy that it's the breakdown. You can't run for the rest of your life. Your knees are going to go out. This is going to happen. You can't be a 65-year-old runner or whatever. And you guys have just blown that completely out of the water.
And we've seen it blown out. So I had a conversation yesterday with a guy named Buzz Burrell. I refuse to put a date on Buzz Burrell without some kind of like scientific carbon dating apparatus, because I think he's older than evergreen trees. The redwood forest is slightly younger than Buzz Burrell, but this guy he ran 15 races in 9 months, and he's got to be well north of 70 years old. But Julie, the other thing about him is this guy is an old school ultra runner. It's not like he's been doinking around with 5 miles a day. No, he's been running 100-mile races since the 80s. Wow. And so for him to be motoring along, I think he's the rule, not the exception. I think people who understood their bodies, all the stuff that we're talking about, Buzz figured out for himself in the 80s, and that's why he's still going strong today.
Well, okay, James Calloway has a comment and question on here. So he said he just got the book, loves it so far, and can't wait to try some of the recipes. Any others of the recipes that didn't make it into the book?
Dude, what will satisfy you? You haven't even tried them yet. Can you do a supplement? Well, to answer your question, James, Greedy James, yes, we could do, I think, more recipes. But what we decided to do, Julie, is because there's a million recipe books out there. What we decided to specifically target was what we call on the run recipes, because, at this point, we all know what we should have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We know, and we're just choosing to eat it or not eat it. Like, so I know I shouldn't have the nachos for dinner. I'm going for it. I should really have chicken and broccoli in the salad. So I think most people understand, but where the real danger is not at the table. It's away from the table. So you're running off to your kid's soccer game. You're starving. You stop at 7-Eleven, you get a microwave burrito, that kind of thing. So what we were looking for were what are good, healthy, packable foods where you can eat on the run, on a hike, before a run, in the car. And that's what the majority of these recipes are.
That is so important, because that's really, we all think we're going to be good planners and plan the week's recipes and do all of that, and in the perfect world, we're all going to do that stuff. And the fact of the matter is we don't. And
yeah.
So you give recipes. Now, do you give suggestions, or maybe this for if you are on the run and you can't, you haven't pre-planned, what are some good alternatives out there at the 7-Eleven or at the hop in the grocery store? Do you give any kind of clues on that stuff?
I think you can search high and low in the 7-Eleven, and there's no winning hand at that card table. But
the Slim Jim's not going to cut it.
Much as I love them, I will not trash talking good Slim Jim. But here's this little simple thing though. A couple of our runners, Lucy Bartholomew and Margot, Eric's client, Margot Waters, they just take like dates and shove a walnut inside, or shove an almond inside of a date. I mean, that is 4 nanoseconds of prep time, and you have a bag of those in the fridge. And our friend Alex Barnett, Billy Barnett's wife, Alex, she just has a bunch of baggies in the fridge all times, and then she's racing up there, bam, grabs a couple baggies. She'll do a chia pudding with coconut cream and chia and vanilla inside. It's freaking delicious. She calls it, it's dessert for breakfast. But she's got a bunch of those in a bag. You whip them off, you go. So, yeah, if you're trying to forage on the run, I think you're
that's when you're relying on your fat burning from the program.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, you guys, this was really, so the book is just out today. Is that right? So it's just, we got you right on release day.
Yeah, release minute. This is the first book event we're doing.
I'm loving that. I'm feeling very honored about that.
Yeah.
So that's terrific. So, okay, let me ask you real quick before we head out, because I know you guys have got other things that you got going on. Were you always going to call it Born to Run too? Another good inside joke.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah.
not even inside anymore, but
Now it's in the acknowledgments.
Oh,
Oh, you don't know about this, Julie? You haven't seen
no,
this?
because I haven't seen the book yet. Because I'm at my house working, so I haven't physically held the book yet.
Well, I will say one thing before I forget, before addressing that question. I sent a bunch of signed book plates to Warwick,
Yes.
and also some really cool Tarahumara bracelets. And so I think I sent 20. So the first 20 people who get their signed book from Warwick's will also get this really beautiful bracelet. I almost have them within reach, but it's not handy. And so, yes, I think, yeah, anybody who shows up, first 20 or so people will get that signed book plate inside their book and the bracelet.
Awesome.
So Born to Run 2. Let me ask you, Julie, what do you think? Is it a good idea?
I do, and I'll tell you why. Because of the success of Born to Run. And I think there is something that you have to, even if it sounds like it's a different book though. I mean, it sounds like it's not, and so there's a danger there. There's a little bit of a danger there, but I do think that it will capture the right people with the title. Does that make sense?
Totally. What do you think, Eric?
I totally agree. I think, for you and I, it was from day one, that's what it's going to be. And we had to stick with our guns, but it just, you don't have, any other author would love to be able to title their book Born to Run too. So that's kind of how I look at it. And it's like we started this conversation. Is it a sequel? And for you and for a lot of what you wanted to maybe put into Born to Run, it is a sequel. So that's why we chose Born to Run.
It's an evolution.
Yeah. There you go.
I'll tell you though, this was a massive, massive point of contention. And it made me start to doubt whether Eric and I should be working together without an adult in the room, because we agree so much. I don't think we ever actually disagree. We sort of progress to an opinion together, but I don't think we've ever said yes, no, yes, no. And so he and I have always been of the same mind of like, yeah, we should call it Born to Run too. And everybody else was violently against it. Completely. Terrible idea. Terrible
really?
Idea. Yes. And this is one of these ones where I told Eric, dude, we're not even going to engage. We're just going to stand our ground. We're just going to wait them out, because they were so against it across the board.
And was the reason because it was so different of a book, or what was their reasoning behind it?
The reasoning is similar to the kind of thing that we contend with this whole running shoe thing, is, well, because everybody's doing it. And so the thing with the number is, nobody puts a 2 after the title. Nobody does it. Harry Potter didn't do it. Nobody does that. It's always a different title, because, and they said it's because people won't buy the second one if they haven't read the first one. And I said, oh, how do you know? What other books out there have the number? Well, no, we don't know, because nobody would do it. It became circular. Nobody would do it because it's stupid. It's stupid because nobody does it. And like, yeah, but maybe it's every friggin' movie does it. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see. I got to honestly say, I don't know if we're right. We could be wrong. It felt like
I don't know. I think that you're I don't know if you want to call it a franchise or whatever. Everybody knows Born to Run. I mean, and even people I'm not a runner. I'm not in the running. I know Born to Run. You know what I mean? So I know what this is and what this next one potentially could be. So,
yeah. So yeah, you asked a very revealing question for us. We've been having this conversation for a year now. Like both self-righteous and adamant, and kind of like, oh geez,
what did we do?
Right, we're really gonna eat it if we're wrong.
Well, there's always self-doubt and all this stuff. And hey, let me tell you, we're all in this publishing world and in this post-pandemic, nobody really knows anything definitively anymore. And I don't even know if they knew it before. So I don't think there is a definitive hard line on that. Edward's asking real quick, is the book available in an audio version?
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure if I'd recommend it that much though.
Yeah.
Look at Eric's face. Nah.
No.
I just listened to a clip myself for the first time. So this is where, Julie, an example of where I didn't, there you go. hardcover. Well, first of all, there's pictures galore,
Right.
which you don't get. And the pictures are legit. They're actually demonstrating movements. And so they're important. But here's the other thing. This is where I did not listen to my instinct. When the UK publisher wanted to do the audio book, and I said, "Oh, okay, I can record it." I'm like, "No, not you. We got somebody we want." And I'm like, "Really?" Because it's a first person book. And so they hired this English audio actor, and it sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous. It's James McAvoy as Chris McDougall. So I listened to it for the first time today. Eric, I just had this conversation like 2 hours ago. I'm like, dude, what are we gonna do? So Edward, I would say
I've already heard from a few readers who had got the audio book and immediately have gone to get the physical book.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think that there may be a situation where somebody can't read it, you know, and that that it is available as an audio is a good thing.
Right.
So I think that is a good thing, that is an option. It just might not be the perfect product that you guys had wanted. And
every page is an adventure. So I think if you do have a choice, you're going to want that physical experience.
And I think, not to take anything away from your words, but it's like cooking a recipe. If you see what it's supposed to look like, there's just something about that cements it in your brain. Like visualization is such a big part of it.
Right.
Exactly. We always conceive this as a very visual book. As a matter of fact, we did the photos before we actually wrote the text, because we knew what we wanted, and we knew it was going to be a challenge to get it. And so we actually spent a weekend up in Colton with actually Iman, one of the people from San Diego, getting these photos, because we knew we were very particular about exactly what we wanted.
Yeah. Somebody's asking, is there a workout plan in the book? Brian's asking that.
Yes, there is.
There's the book culminates with a 90-day program to run faster, further, forever. And so it's combining all of our free 7 components that we talked about earlier into a 90-day program that you can follow along day to day.
Awesome.
Yeah. There we go. What we did was we also put a QR code in the back of the book too. So when you finish the book and you're ready to start the 90-day program, you just scan that QR code and the 90 days of workouts will pop up in your phone. And so, so
Genius.
you just do isn't it great? Isn't it great?
Yeah.
I think that was an Eric idea.
Yeah. Great idea.
It really worked out well.
Yeah. Love that. All right, you two, I know you're on release day. You guys are busy. This was such a great conversation, and I can't wait to have both of you back in La Jolla at some point in the future. Don't forget, everybody, first 20 people get a bracelet and a signed copy. So the link is in the Facebook page, but if you're watching this on YouTube later, it's really easy to go to warwicks.com. And we ship books around the country too, folks.
Yeah. Signed books
around the country. Yeah. Eric, it was wonderful meeting you.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it.
Thanks. And Chris, always great seeing you. And
so fun, Julie.
You guys have a great evening, and congratulations on the book.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Warwick.